president also lashed out at Democrats, accusing them of helping to create the border crisis. Watch.
The Democrats in Congress not willing to act. They want to have open borders, which means they want to have crime. They want to have drugs pouring into our country. They don't want to act. We have to close up the borders. We're doing it, but we're doing it. I could do it much faster if they would act.
Some Democrats refuse to even admit there's a serious problem along the border with Mexico. Among them, New Mexico Congresswoman Xochitl Torres Small, who, when pushed repeatedly on MSNBC to describe the situation as a real crisis, well, she would only go so far as to say, quote, "I believe that there are real challenges along the border and that we have to work together to address them." Thank you, dear. So are Democrats living in a delusional bubble, or are they just denying reality for political gain? Let's meet tonight's panel. She's the Federalist culture editor. That's a great publication. Emily Jashinsky is here, along with Reason Magazine editor-at-large and host of the Fifth Column podcast, soon-to-be award-winning Matt Welch, and liberal radio talk show host and Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall is here. Welcome, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Do we have a crisis?
Yes, we have a crisis. I mean, we've had a decline in the number of people coming to the border for a decade. And now we have, you saw the numbers, 36,000 of that 90-some thousand are families. So one of the things I want to tout from your former home state of California and where I'm living now is what the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, is doing. He said, how do we stop the bleeding? Well, we got to see what's causing the problem. Why are they coming here? He's gone to El Salvador. He's there now. That doesn't stop the problem. But you need to see at the root, what is the cause? Why are these people leaving?
No, it's like that bumper sticker, Jesus is coming, look busy. You know, it's like going to El Salvador. It doesn't mean that you're taking a true in-depth survey and really figuring out structurally what is causing
I disagree, because it's part, look, this is a huge problem. One thing like a wall certainly isn't going to help or fix this problem. Neither is going to El Salvador. And the legislation that we have, even if we enforce the laws on the books, that's not going to solve the problem. But you do have to say, when you are the state, as California is the most affected by this problem. You know, why are they coming to the United States? You know, what is happening here? You can't, and where does the money go that we give to El Salvador, and what would happen as we cut them off, as the president has threatened to do? And I think it is a good first step. I don't see anybody in the administration doing that, and honestly, I don't see Democrats or Republicans in Congress or the Senate doing that.
My problem with this sort of foreign aid is you're giving a lot of money to, you know, conceivably bad people who are essentially drug cartels who sort of legitimize themselves and now run political organizations in order to funnel their drugs from their country into ours. So why is giving them money helping the situation at all, when you could go back even further and look at the drug war as one of the primary causes of all of this?
Foreign aid almost never really helps. It's a tool of kind of control or ability to influence other people, and it affects elites in other countries. It's not really a very useful thing to do. The best single thing that you can do in terms of helping other countries is trade with them openly. That's the opposite of closing the border, which Trump has been threatening to do for the last 12 days, stupidly, wrongly. And I would say...
So should American companies open factories in places like El Salvador?
They want to, absolutely, absolutely. And I think one of the turns for the worse that the Republican Party has made under Donald Trump and Reince Priebus, who I saw tout this at the Republican convention in 2016, is, hey, let's punish American companies for opening up factories abroad. No. Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush both said, and this is back when Mexico was a lot poorer than it is now, and women were having 6 kids on average. They're having 2 point something now. Back then, they said the best thing we can do is to open the cross-border system, both for humans and especially for trade, because if they get richer, then people are going to want to come less. The thing that Donald Trump has done wrong, in my estimation, he thinks that we can enforce this problem away. You cannot. If you make the big, beautiful door in the wall smaller, not big, not beautiful, the legal system is more cramped. We accept fewer refugees in, then people are going to take the illegal route.
That's the conclusion of this line of thinking, which never makes sense to me, because you have a bunch of people who want to come here, and the good people who want to work should be allowed to come here and work and help our economy thrive even more. But if you have this sort of prohibition of humans, the way you did of alcohol, the murder rates double.
Yes, and so we have this conversation that is so inordinately focused on the wall, when it should really be focused on our asylum laws and our refugee laws, because right now we just spent a lot of time talking about why people are fleeing Central America, and there's a lot of legitimate reasons, the drug war being one of them. intense poverty being another. And why, though, are they coming to the United States? Why are they, in so many cases, turning themselves in at the border rather than sneaking across a river in the dead of night? They're turning themselves into our Border Patrol because they know the way our laws work, there's a lot of easy ways for them to circumvent the way we want them to work. And so the real conversation should be, how do we clean up our immigration laws to prevent some of these problems from happening? Do I think there's some efficacy to a wall? Absolutely. Do I think there's some common sense to putting a wall in certain places? Absolutely. Should the focus be more on our laws? 100%.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And you know, even Corey said himself that if you have visa overstays and you have students who are staying here and other people who are getting in on airplanes and not necessarily digging through tunnels, you have to figure out who you're letting in and how many more people you can have who aren't straining entitlements and whatever other government outreach programs that, you know, take away from Americans.
No, that's the majority.
Taxation is theft, Leslie.
That's the majority of that's the majority of undocumented workers in this country.
Yeah.
I mean, are the people that overstay their visas? The majority of them come, you know, by planes, and we have seen so many drugs right now coming through our borders,
they say
not
visas?
through the wall, where the wall would be. What?
In Sweden, they say visas.
Visas?
Yeah, that's right.
That's
the more
beautiful.
you know. Fun facts here on the Ken and Daily Show. Panel returns in just a little bit. It appears young people, damn kids, they are driving the socialism resurgence. The most recent Gallup polling shows that more than half of 18 to 29-year-olds have a positive view of socialism, but only 45% of the youngins have a positive view of glorious capitalism. Every other age group favored capitalism by a notable margin. So is socialism the hot new dish or just a flash in the pan? The panel is back. Emily Jashinsky, Matt Welch, and Leslie Marshall. Emily, since you are a certified millennial,
I guess.
what is behind this? Is it that they have all been led to believe this false narrative on socialism in college from a bunch of professorial bubble dwellers?
Yeah, well, I think that's part of it. And also, this is a generation that's gone to college in larger numbers than we've ever seen before. So, yes, a lot of them are going through these, I guess you call them, you know, re-education camps that are happening on campuses across the country. But I think it's also less of a surging interest in socialism than it is a desensitization. Because, you know, previous generations grew up in the Cold War era. That's not the case with my generation. We grew up between 9/11 and the recession. And so you can see where there would be this interest in the comforts of, you know, or sort of running away from the rugged individualism that has come to define a lot of generations.
They wouldn't survive.
You know, we're a weak generation.
It's such a bummer, man.
Yeah, it's not great.
And no one has a pocket knife anymore.
I do.
The 21st
Yes, you
century.
do. That's why you're here on the show. You would survive the apocalypse.
I don't even want to know how many knives are in your go bag. Your brother's here. He's like, my God, he's got an entire backpack
You
over
can't
there.
go through the metal detector.
That's just his legs. No, it's the 21st century has kind of sucked. It has not been good. I mean, you bring up the between 9/11 and the Great Recession. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
So we've had these big examples and big like freak out and government response to those examples, and they always make these things worse.
Yeah.
And so it's not just millennials who feel kind of like alienated and disaffected. We're at year 9 or 10 of an economic expansion. Do people feel great? They don't. This is part of the reason why people are
Too much government.
are
That's
lunging for politics that feel extreme. I think socialism in some ways it's like a big stick. In a similar way to we were talking at the beginning of the show with like let's just build a wall, let's just close the border, let's just do a big thing, let's just Brexit something, right? So that's what it feels like on the right. I think on the left it's like let's finally do socialism. They've been warning about us forever. Great, let's bring it on right now.
Let's be Norway. We can't be Norway.
And I think part of that is that we just want a big stick because we don't feel good. We feel like alienated from our own political life.
We're so much better.
Yes.
I think Matt is absolutely right. Leslie, your thoughts?
I don't agree with you guys. Sorry. And I know I'm not a millennial. And my 11-year-old son got TSA took his pocket knife when we were on spring break last week.
Gen Z.
Darn.
Oh, so let's have more
Z.
government.
Yeah, he's Gen Z.
More pat downs for everyone.
Hey, I don't want that. But when you look at other countries, right, and I think what people are saying is, hey, wait a minute. They have free health care. They have free college. Why shouldn't we?
Because they also have free market economies and they have high taxes on the middle class.
But that's not what they asked in the survey.
Class.
If you look at the survey, they're like, do you like socialism? You like capitalism? Also, do some of the people answering this even really know what that means? I think they hear buzzwords like
progressives
socialism.
are always changing the definition of socialism, and they go, "That's not socialism. Venezuela is not socialism. Norway."
No, I think
Sweden,
Republicans change it
IKEA
too.
meatballs.
I think Republicans change it too because they don't like to admit or just conveniently forgot that Social Security, Medicare, which they all partake of and don't say, hey, don't give it to me, are two socialistic programs. When you have AOC, right. When you have Bernie Sanders standing there saying, I'm a democratic socialist, and they're beating their chest and they're proud, and they have such a millennial following, I think it's hip and cool to be socialist, if you will, right now. And I think some of them answering that were answering that because their role models and their political heroes are saying they're socialist, democratic socialists.
Great leadership. We have to go, and that's sad because you guys are amazing, and you've made my night. Thank you so much, Leslie, Nat, and Emily. Glorious.